Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Chill Film Discussion. So today we reviewed a film called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It is it's an MCU movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be MCM depending on how you interpret it. But yeah,
Not
it's a
yet.
Marvel movie. Not yet. Not yet. They've already trademarked it enough. They need to cater to the IP. But yeah, it's a Marvel movie. It's the third Ant-Man film,
Hmm.
and it sort of stars the same cast from before, for the most part, and with the exception of a new character, Cassie. That's the biggest introduction. Who is I think played by Catherine Newman,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. She plays Scott Lane, aka Ant-Man's daughter, and yeah, they delve into the quantum realm and they meet a big baddie by known as Kang the Conqueror,
Yeah.
who is the person I was most excited to see. Not in terms of like character, but in terms of like, oh, now we have a big baddie for that's set up for the remainder of these uh,
Yeah.
phases. Um, and I think by itself, the film wasn't great. There were a lot of plot conveniences for this film
Yeah.
and art plot armor for our main characters that made it such that the plot is like basically the plot above all else.
Hmm.
Like the sort of introduction of Kang the Conqueror as a villain, also like just introducing more elements of the multiverse. Um, Kind of like overshadowed,
Hmm.
I think, Ant Man as Ant Man by himself or Ant
Right.
Man's story. I think this movie kind of went in the same realm, same direction as Doctor Strange 2, where
Mm.
the premise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or I guess multiverse you know, uh, in this case, is above the main character of this movie, Ant Man.
Right.
Um, and you can sort of see that because a lot of the plot that followed from Ant Man 2 um, did not come into this movie or did not factor into this movie.
Hmm.
It was almost as if like you don't need to watch the previous films. You just watch this from scratch and then sort of um, be uh, what's the word? Just dazed or impressed upon by the fact that there is this whole new world.
Right.
There's this multiverse. There's this new villain. And so I think, yeah, this it played its purpose in the grander scheme of things. But as an individual film, um, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was too plot convenient. I think
Hmm.
to 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 not have some criticism. Um, Also, I will want to shout out Jonathan Majors acting. He was a great actor.
Yeah.
He's the one who plays Kane. Uh, and yes, I look forward to seeing more of him in the future.
Yeah.
Because he was he's a bright spot in this film. Um, yeah, I think that's sort of the main things I wanted to say. Yes,
Okay.
it feels like it's like a product of the film felt like a product of the plot rather than the product of like characters.
Right. Okay.
Um, so
Yeah. For me, I kind of agree. I think I have some complicated feelings because it was. I mean, the story was there and it's still, enjoyable action movie, right? But a lot of it, as you said, there's a lot of plot conveniences, which, kind of stuck out and maybe, took out appreciation
mhm.
for this movie, right? Because you think, it could go one way, but then, they kind of save the day in a situation or save the day in a situation where it's like not as satisfying, right? Because you would think, they would be able to falter somehow, or the villain become a little bit more competent in other areas. So it's kind of
Yeah.
sad in that regard. I think this movie, it takes a little bit more turn for the comedic, right? I mean, it's not as, I guess, exaggerated as it was in Love and Thunder, right? But it definitely has a little bit more, I think, or they try to weave in a bit more comedy, which sometimes I feel like the jokes don't land as much for me. I mean, I guess some of them I
Mhm.
could appreciate, but a lot of the times, I don't think I, thought that, yeah, this is a a joke that I thought would fit in too well, or was right for the moment, or was was part of as the greatest writing. So I think it could have some of the writing comedy could have been tuned in a little bit better. There's like this whole thing with this goo guy, not appreciative, and yeah, and then in terms of characters like Modoc, I love the creativity of how they baked into his story, but I don't think he really needed a redemption at all. I think he could have just been a villain. Um,
Mhm.
so that was another character, but I kind of agree with you on Kang. I think his performance, Jonathan Major's performance, was really powerful, really threatening. I felt it a lot,
Yeah.
and I thought he did a really good job in the scenes that he was in, especially once he captured Cassie and Scott. His performance shone in a good way, but his character itself kind of peters out at the end, where he's not as competent or fearful as his introduction was, which is
Mhm.
unfortunate, because this guy is supposed to carry on as the big bad, and yeah, they'll probably redeem him somehow, show how he's improved, become stronger. But I think in this movie, he has a strong introduction, and then he kind of seems, as you said, they're lacking parts, right? Where you would think there's, I guess, the plot armor for the main characters, protected them, but yeah. But I do think there are other character moments that are wasted, other character moments that could have shined a little bit more. But visually, this movie has its stunning moments as well, right? I think we kind of touched upon, like, the scene where there's like multiple Ant-Mans and whatnot. Outside of that one cameo of the Bastion Robbins, uh, you know, scene, the employee, everything else, I think that scene was great and visually stunning. But overall, the world there was a lot of CGI, which can I
Yep.
complain
Yep.
too much? I mean, sometimes it just looks unreal, but other times it does, like, put you into a whole new world, which is very interesting. But yeah, this movie, I think it's complicated, because I do enjoy the Marvel movies. I do enjoy superhero movies, and I think this movie was
Mhm.
fun to watch. But at the same time, some of the writing just didn't work out too much as
Yeah.
it should have. So
Yeah. For sure. For sure. I think the ending, the climax, and the resolution of this film was, mm, I feel like not as, like, it was impactful in the sense that, like, we got to see Kane, and we will see him return.
right,
And he's definitely a big threat. But at the same time, there could have been a bigger repercussion
right,
to this film.
yeah,
It could have been that Kane actually, like, instead of being defeated by ants and kind of like locked into his, I don't know, whatever, another dimension of wherever he went, um, he could have played a more imposing role that kept Scott and or Hope in the quantum realm,
right,
um, such that, like, now we have, you know, we still have an issue.
right.
He's still around. They need to be saved. You know,
Hmm.
future films could address that, but it just ended very, for lack of a better term, conveniently for our
Hmm.
heroes.
Yeah,
Um, Such that, like, Kane went away, they went back home. You know, happy ending supposedly. Yeah.
yeah,
So I think you're right. I mean, visually that this film was well done. I think the writing had its issues. Acting was fine, especially with Kane. I think his, or Jonathan Majors as Kane. I think that was a big standout.
yeah.
Um, yeah, cool. Yeah, our final rating. I think I'm gonna go start. I'll start. I
Yeah.
will give this film a 6.
6.
Um, I think, and I do have it. Yeah, this film um, definitely like because there were so many plot conveniences and the writing was and the writing was sort of geared toward keeping these plot conveniences of like using these plot conveniences to further plot and then keeping our heroes alive through plot armor is just yeah. There was too much or too many gripes, um, especially while watching the movie. It's just like why
Right.
is this happening? Like why wasn't if our heroes or villains were more intelligent, they would do X, Y, Z. They would do something different that would prevent, thing, sort of these, what we're seeing happening.
Right.
Seeing the movie that we're watching that happen, but it just felt sometimes it just felt out of character or felt like it was just like we need to further the plot, so we need to like have these characters
Yeah. Yeah.
do this. But I think the Marvel's known for its humor, and in its previous films, as you mentioned, the humor was okay. At least it wasn't like didn't overstay its welcome like it did in Thor 4.
Right.
But a lot of the humor was kind of cringe or didn't stick, even for me, especially with the whole MODOK sort of redemption. That was kind of cringe, and maybe the Holes guy, that was also a bit cringe. But yeah, the reason the redeeming part of this film wasn't as a standalone film. It was more of just like it served a greater purpose. And that like we have a major villain to look forward to in the future films, which I think was lacking for the whole Phase 4 of this Marvel universe, multiverse. So that's why I sort of give it. It wasn't terrible because it did serve its purpose. I think in the overall grand scheme of things. And would I recommend it? I think I not as a standalone movie, no. But if you're already like invested in like what's happening with the multiverse, then I think this film is important.
Right.
So it's like no, but in this situation, yes. So yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you, Patrick. So my rating is also going to be a 6 here.
Nice.
Because I think it's a lot of what you said, right? It's an enjoyable movie, but there's a lot going on here that maybe didn't work out as best as I like it. I think for me the major redeeming portion really was Jonathan Majors' performance as Kang, because it really stuck out to me. It really left a great impression on me, throughout the film. Even though he was defeated in a way that maybe seemed a bit anticlimactic for someone who is shown to be as powerful, his performance just left a lasting impression. His first introduction, and even throughout, like his interactions with Janet, how he can be like sincere and empathetic to her situation, but then turn on her, was very interesting to see. So I think this is an actor who has a lot of range and is very good at his craft, and I enjoyed watching him on screen, and I can't wait to watch him again in the future. And then as for the writing, I think the story is pretty is decent. We can follow along. Well, it's coherent, but the writing itself, there are a lot of comedic moments. As you said, they're just cringe. It doesn't work. It doesn't land. The jokes don't land well, which can take up take you out of the movie, especially when it's a good chunk of the movie. It's not as bad as Love and Thunder, but it's still there, and some of the jokes do take you out of it.
Yep.
And I think there are characters who some we wanted to see more developed than others. I think they could have leaned a lot more into Bill Murray's character. I thought that would have maybe played a more interesting role, give Janet's backstory a little bit more weight. and see, do I dive into her past and see some comeuppance for his character as well, something satisfying. But we don't. We drop it, which is okay. And then some of the other characters as well, like this is called Ant-Man and the Wasp, but the Wasp isn't as prominent. You would think she would be placed more apart. But on the other end, right, the daughter, Cassie Lang, she is able to, step up here, right? She plays more of a role. Do I like her character? Some of her character I felt like, was a bit limiting. I think she, doesn't, take into account of her consequences. But that can be explained because she is, I guess, still trying to grow up into her identity as a superhero. She wants to become bigger, but I don't think she, gets that full weight just yet. But yeah, I think that this movie could have had consequences a lot major than what we saw before, right? It would have been interesting to see, I think, Scott and Hope stuck in the quantum realm at the end of the movie. I think that would have redeemed the movie a lot bit more, give them more weight to the consequences. But that kind of it was very plot convenient that Cassie was able to bring them back. And it took away a little bit of the weight that we were thinking about, like, oh yeah, how is he going to get back, right? So that was but unfortunate that they went away. But the movie, it plays more, I think, above average from a regular film. And I think it's I feel like not the greatest start for Phase 5. I think, would I recommend this film? Hard to say. I think, as you said, if you're invested in the Marvel universe already, if you like the superheroes, you definitely should watch it because it will definitely set things up in the future. Otherwise, as a standalone, I think, as you said before, probably one that you could skip.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, once again, we agree with the same exact rating.
Yeah. So, no difference.
No difference. Stay tuned for next week when we agree on the same rating again, or whatever film we watch, which we'll decide off stream. But anyway, that concludes this stream or this discussion. So we'll see you next week. Yes?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Next week it is. Hopefully there won't be any technical issues, and we can start on time.
We hope not. All right.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.